I'd like to call to order the Smyrna Planning Commission for April 2019. At this time, we'd ask everyone to stand while we have our prayer and pledge.
Bow, please. Father, we come to you today just with grateful hearts, and Lord, we thank you for the beautiful weather. We thank you for this town that we live in and we call our home. But we also thank you for those that serve it, protect it, watch over it, keep it running, keep it operating. They do all the work, Father. And Lord, especially our citizens that live here, Father, we just thank you for them. And we're so grateful that we have such a great place to call our hometown of Smyrna. Lord, go with us tonight as we deliberate over the town's business. Give us wisdom. Help us make the right decisions. And protect us in all we do. Forgive us of our sins. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we have a new member we'd like to recognize. Andrew, we really appreciate you joining us. Why don't you give us just a little bit about yourself? And I didn't give him any warning, so I apologize for that.
That's how we break a mood.
Well, I've been in Smyrna since 2010. Live in Lenox of Smyrna, a new build, not too far away. Been in the Nashville area since '96. There's a lot of growth that I've seen, and I see it starting to happen here. And I just want to be a part of that positive impact.
We really appreciate your commitment, and thank you for your service with us.
Thank you.
Welcome. Item number 3, citizens' comments. None at this time.
That's correct.
Moving on to item number 4, election of officers. Counselor, would you please take charge?
Sure. We will first be taking nominations for chairman of the Planning Commission. I'll open the for nominations for chairman.
I nominate Ed Davenport for chairman.
Have a nomination for Ed Davenport. Is there any other nominations? Seeing no further nominations, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Secondly, we have a vice chairman of the Planning Commission. I'll accept nominations for vice chairman.
I'll nominate Tim Morrell.
Nomination for Tim Morrell. Is there any other nomination? Seeing no further nominations, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on. Item number 5, approval of the minutes. Do we have any corrections or additions to the minutes as they were handed out? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6, new business. Annexation, zoning, plan of service. Item number 1, John Hill. Staff comments.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 different things kind of all wrapped into this one request. So we'll kind of go through each one of them. The first part of this request is an annexation request, and it's the area on the map that's in your packet and what's on the screen over there on the wall there is the area shown in blue. That is Mr. Hill's property. It's about 1.79 acres that has been requested to be annexed into the town. For annexation purposes, this is the town would be providing all services except for water here, as this does fall within CUD service area. As part of the rest of the property is already located within the town. There's 2 tracts of land there that total about 107 acres or so. Part of that that's shown in red is currently part of the approved Blakeney PRD. That has been requested to be rezoned R1. And essentially what's happening here is the developer and Mr. Hill are doing a land swap. And so that would become a part of Mr. Hill's parcel. His land is in the green belt, and he wants to be felt like it'd be better and easier to maintain that green belt status if it had an R1 zoning versus a development zoning. And it's not going to be a part of the development moving forward if you all in the council do approve this change. The rest of the request is the existing track that's within the town. Those rest of those 2 tracks and then including Mr. Hill's 1.79 acres is to amend the approved PRD. The total in the approved in the PRD, as it's been requested, is 108.74 acres. Surrounding zoning, current zoning is all basically RM in the county, as well as and then the PRD that's already there. There is actually some a little bit of R3 as well across the street between on the south side of Morton Lane there. Land use plan would support a lower density single family residential development in this area. The proposed PRD is to allow a total of 273 residential lots, which would be a mix of essentially 197 single family lots and 2 different lot widths, and then 76 townhouses. Setbacks will be 25 feet front, 6-foot side, and 20-foot rear for all the single-family lots, and then 25 feet front and 20 rear for the townhomes. Those townhomes would have a 7.5-foot side setback for those end units. The existing PRD is for 262 single-family residential lots. Setbacks there are the same 25 feet front and 20-foot rear for about 25% of the lots, and then 30 feet front and 20-foot rear on the rest of them with the 7-foot side setbacks. So essentially you're increasing the density by 11 units, but you're changing the mix. Obviously, instead of being all detached single family, you're going to have a mix of this detached as well as the 76 attached units. We had a few comments. We can remove comment 6 there. They are proposing some amenities. The amenities they're proposing some playground and some courts and different things. The zoning ordinance would require, we have a list of 5 options, and they've shown one of those 5 options, so they do need to tweak their amenities to show that. We still do need to see the utility extensions into the project. The planning commission members have been on the commission for a while. Mr. Atkins, certainly being new, wouldn't know this, but when this came through before, where Morton Lane and Rocky Fork Allenville Road intersect, we had talked with them and did require some road improvements there to make that intersection where Morton Lane would intersect Rocky Fork Allenville Road at a 90-degree angle versus the acute angle it currently intersects there. They're showing that as a part of phase 4, and we feel like that needs to be as part of, those need to be constructed as a part of phase 1, because otherwise the access would not be safe in our opinion. Number 10 is really for their information regarding the fire flow requirements of 1,000 gallons per minute here. Number 11, there is a cemetery shown. There's a little, if you look at the tax map area, there's kind of a little notched area, kind of the northwest corner of parcel 47 that shows up as a cemetery. So they do need to provide access to that through an easement. There's a couple of spots we do need fire truck turnarounds at the end of all the dead-end streets. The sewer line that would serve the site would actually have to come off-site, from off-site as a 10-inch line. So that's just number comment 13. The fire department did ask for a fire rating on the materials to be used on the side of the homes. And then number 15 is kind of become one of our standard comments, is to show the HVAC units in the rear of all the homes. Number 16 is from CUD. They did issue a will serve letter on the 23rd of March of this year, that they can serve 270 single-family residential homes, but for domestic water only. Their fire flow requirements can't be met until a water main improvement project is complete, which their estimating completion date is in spring of 2021, so about 2 years out. We would not want to issue any building permits till that was done. Certainly they could start work and as far as their infrastructure installation and grading and that sort of thing. But they can't meet fire flow at this time until that offsite improvement's done. So the homes are proposed as a brick, stone, stuff, and or concrete siding mix on all sides. So as far as that goes, we're not no vinyl proposed here. And the layout is roughly the same as what was approved before, other than they have changed the mix with the housing, with adding the townhomes there. As far as the access points and all that are still pretty much the same as what has been approved already. I think that's all that I've got.
The wooded area that's shown behind the townhomes section of this is part of this PRD, is that correct? I'm looking at C4.2.
Yeah, that's all part of the entire track is part of the approved, or requested PRD as well as part of the currently approved PRD.
Now, is that part common area, or is it for future development, or what's, because there's quite a bit of property there. I assume we have some topo issues.
Right, there is some significant topo on the western part of the property, and so they are proposing basically to leave that alone, or so basically in its natural state.
I guess as part of this PUD, is it designated open area, or is it something that could be used for future development at some point in time?
My understanding, yeah, this would be part of would be designated as open area. If they ever wanted to do, somebody in the future or anything like that wanted to develop that area, would have to come back as a PUD amendment.
Well, they'd have to deal with it would be part of the HOA.
Part of the HOA, third-party managed HOA.
It would be just like the other part of the amenity package and be part of the HOA.
Right.
And the responsibility of the HOA to
Do whatever maintenance is needed, right.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a very similar situation to what was in the Cedar Hills project across, not too far from this site. Same.
But I think it's a little
idea.
bit different if they're retaining the ownership of it, or if it's going to be part of the HOA common area.
Right. Yeah, and this is, it would be part of the overall development, part of the PRD and the HOA owned, eventually owned and maintained.
Kevin, a question came up at council, I think last month. I think Mr. Estes was here, and he proposed from the old Cedar Hills development, all that green space, which is kind of unusable space, maybe being in contact with somebody like Tennessee Trails or something, that they
Right.
could do something with this. Is that feasible here?
I mean, I think it's certainly something that could be looked at.
Make it part of that. It's rough, I know, it's not paved or anything like that, but.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly something, I'm in the process of reaching out. I actually did some of that today, trying to reach out to some of our surrounding communities in the state that, you know, how they have addressed something like this, try to get some kind of best practices from some other folks too as well. But yeah, that's certainly, I think it's it could be an option here.
It remains natural, you know, it just kind of gives people a place to walk their dog or hike, whatever.
Right.
You know, so.
I guess one of my concerns was, you know, when I saw the fire flow requirements, and they can't be met till 2021. So when you're talking about no construction till then, we're talking nothing as far as any of the phases going forward at that point, right?
Well, you certainly, like I said, they could,
Exactly.
there wouldn't be any permitting as far as, but they could get grading permit, they could start installing roadways and that sort of thing to get ready for permitting in 2021.
So are we talking about not issuing a building permit?
Yeah,
Or
that's
not
right.
issuing?
Not issuing
a
building permits
certificate
for-
of occupancy? No building?
No
permit.
building permits is how.
And that's kind of where I'm heading
Right.
with that, whether it was going to be a permit to build or a certificate of occupancy.
It'd be permit, we would treat it as a permit to build, because if they can't meet the fire flow requirement, they can't build it. I mean, so, and then even if you don't have an occupant in that house, it's still under construction and things could catch fire still,
Exactly.
so.
Well, I think that's much the better way to do that. Just clarification. Good point.
Are we comfortable with both the single-family and then the townhomes that we have? I mean, especially in particular with the townhomes, we've looked at making sure that we have enough right-of-way or front easement rather, or setback is what I'm trying to say, as far as being able to get two cars there without being in sidewalk.
I mean, there would be 25 feet, so I mean, that's kind of what we've been treating on the single family and the townhomes, a 25-foot building setback from the property line. And the sidewalk being is essentially in the right of way, so you would have 25 feet between the house and the right of way. So you'd have at least 25 feet behind the sidewalk.
Do these drawings that we've got in here correlate to what they're planning to do?
Right. And there's, I believe so, let me make sure. And they're also,
Got the double wide part.
there are double wide, two pads, 2 parking spots for each house, 2-car garages on the houses. The townhomes would have 1-car garage, but still a 2-car width on the driveway. And then there's some guest parking as well, kind of scattered throughout the development.
And you said this differs from the original PRD? In
Yes.
that we,
It does differ. I mean, before, what's currently approved is 262 single-family lots, and this is, you got 197 single-family lots and 76 townhouses for a total of 273. So you're increasing the density by 11 total units, and you're also having the, obviously, the mix is different.
did the exterior constructions change with this, or is it still?
It's still basically
I
the
couldn't
same,
remember if
yeah.
it was always masonry or
Yeah.
not.
It was.
Okay.
It was all masonry.
Yeah, that's my recollection,
You've
yeah.
got 6-foot side setbacks on some of the single family, and I know we've been doing that for 5. I didn't realize we had started doing it with 6 or 7s or whatever. Is that just based on staff recommendations? Is that something we can look at?
That's how they requested it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we also have HVAC units to the
Yeah,
rear?
they're-
That was our recommended condition, as a condition, yes.
I think also with that first one, the road improvement had to be done before construction because of getting in and out of that subdivision.
Right, it was gonna be a part of phase 1, that would be, yes, it would be done.
Now they're proposing phase 4.
That's how they're showing it on their phasing plan, is that it would be done as part of phase 4.
That creates a problem on construction traffic getting in and out. I drove those roads for years. I used to live out there, and they've got some blind spots in them. And people never drive the speed limit, so that would, construction traffic coming in and out of there, people hauling trailers, getting in and out of there, and making that turn, it would make it very, very tough.
Yeah, they're asking for phase 4, but the staff comments are requiring it to be done.
It's a part of phase 1, yeah, I think. And I know there's been, my understanding is there's been some issues with the developer has attempted to acquire the property that's necessary to make that improvement, because there are two property owners that are not a part of this development that would have to be a part of the process as far as the property, and they have not been successful at this time. So, I mean, I think that's, you know, if there's a 2-year window before construction could begin anyway, maybe there's some time in there that could be done, and so it could be included as a part of phase one's construction. Because otherwise, I mean, where they're showing phase one, the access point is very near where Morton Lane currently hits Rocky Fork Animal Road. And that's exactly where it was shown before, and that's where we were trying to avoid, you know, that situation. If the road's moved, that would probably be okay, but.
It would go straight into subdivision,
Right.
straight across.
Well, and then even the access where it's shown as part of phase one, you know, that probably is okay. There's enough separation there and that sort of thing. And if Morton Lane isn't hitting that point anymore, it's not a problem, so.
The street parking going to be allowed, looking at the townhomes here. And from the, I guess from this proposed drawing, any car parking on the street seems to obstruct the driveways.
Yeah, there wouldn't, those would be public streets, and there would not be street parking allowed. There is parking shown near the townhome area that would be basically kind of part of would be located off of the street, so you pull in off the street.
So a dedicated parking space?
Dedicated parking spaces for visitors, yes.
On each
And
end.
then you would have 2 spaces plus the garage for each individual townhouse as well, so.
It's C4.2, shows those
shows that.
spaces, about 7 on each
Yeah.
end of each building in that townhome area.
What's going on with the space between lot 216 and lot 215?
It looks like parking.
Yeah, that's basically, I think that's the mail kiosk
Is that what that
and
is?
some parking, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, 'cause their drawings show mailboxes, but they can't do that anymore, can they?
Yeah. Yeah, they've got a kiosk there, they've got one near lot 266, and I thought I saw another one. Give them this to-
172.
It's like where you
Yeah,
walk.
well, they got some at their amenity area, which would be kind of close to where the amenities are shown kind of.
Actually, they're showing it, looks like 16, and then again at 172 on the end of those parking lots.
Yeah, at the end of the
Right.
townhome.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah, you're right there, and then there's some, like I said, near, in the amenity area, kind of close to where the dog park and that sort of area is there.
Kevin, just a quick question. With all the units that back up to the wooded area that Chairman was talking about, looks like there's a little space on each end where we could add some parking potentially.
That certainly, yeah, it can be done, where the road dead ends on either end.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got some in the middle and some on the other end of,
That's a lot of units with just residential parking. It looks like the ones up in the middle would have some guest parking on each end. They could get pretty crowded pretty quick.
yeah, because that's basically 12 units or so on either end there.
You want to put a number on that?
Most of these lots have 6 or 7, so I think that would be an extra half space per unit, it would be 6, you know, or something like that. So I think 6 or 7, kind of like what they've got shown already. Just had a couple on either end there, had another one.
I didn't know if we need to define how many, so there's not any confusion. A minimum of 6, I mean,
Maybe on either
if you get
end.
more, we would encourage it, but a
Sure.
minimum of 6, are you okay with
I'm
that?
good with that.
If you want more, tell me.
No, I think the minimum is a good way to go, and then if we can get a couple more, that'd be awesome. You got pretty much the whole depth of that unit there that you can side park with, so.
To keep it uniform, what they've got now is 7. So if we said 7, it would match
Yeah,
what's
two
currently
more
in
of
the
those
set.
spots. Okay.
Yeah.
So Kevin, I'm just curious, if they can't acquire the property that they need from Morton Lane, what happens? They come back with us?
Yeah, we'd have to work with them and see if it's the town, if the council wanted to pursue that. You know, we may have to go into a condemnation situation. Of course, we try to avoid it at all costs, but if we have to, we have to. I mean, we've certainly done it. But that would have to be, council would have to make that decision whether they want to go that route or not.
Do we want that settled before we start construction, or at what point in time? I know we would require it being built before we would do any, COs or anything like that, but do we want to put a time frame on it and know that that is settled before we?
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be done as a part of phase 1,
Does that mean we would
which would be
allow
as a
them
part of
to?
which would be as part of the development, the construction would be done as a part of their construction of, when they bring a plat to you for phase 1, you know, that would be done as a part of that. And
Does
so,
it have to come before us before they can start, their development on this property, before they start putting in infrastructure?
I mean, when they actually, they do have a preliminary plat has been approved.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, so,
But was it also approved with that stipulation?
it was approved with that
Yeah,
stipulation.
the road to
So
be-
I think either way, I think that's gotta be done.
Yeah.
In reality, I think, I can't remember, the layout's changed some, so they may have to resubmit to you anyway. I don't have both of them, I haven't laid one on top of the other to really look, but yeah, that would be our recommendation, as part of their development of the infrastructure of phase 1, that the infrastructure, that's part of the infrastructure of phase 1, as part of phase 1, that correction gets made.
Because they can do that with a preliminary before we do a final, right?
No, they have to get the final plat done before they can really do the infrastructure construction. They can start moving dirt and grading.
Grading is
Yeah.
all. They could get a grading permit.
Right. They can get a grading permit with a preliminary plat. They need a final plat before they start actually installing drainage and
And when we
utilities.
see that, we're gonna see the road.
That's our recommendation, yes, sir.
Just kind of a general question. I noticed that we see a trend here for the higher density and maybe detached and townhome mixes. It's becoming, as far as amenities go, you know, when we look at our multifamily and whatnot, we usually have an approved package of amenities that can be selected. Do we have that for PRDs at this point?
We do. It's really basically the same as what the multifamily is. It's usually the list of 5, you know, the pool, basketball, volleyball, I believe tennis, and one other, the court that's just a large open, level open area. And then they have the playground area that they have to have as well in addition to that. So what they're showing is the playground and the dog park, and then the sports, kind of what they call the sports court, can be used for multiple different things. So they, to meet their ordinance, they would have to provide one other one in addition to what they're showing. So,
One other amenity other
Right.
than what's currently on here?
right.
It could be in the same, it could be in that amenity
Could be in
location,
that
or it
same
could be,
area, or it could be somewhere else.
else here.
Right.
So we're saying that area where the amenity package is and where the straightening of Morton Lane and that entrance there, essentially we're saying that has to be phase 1.
Well, I don't know that we're saying it has to be phase 1. I think the Morton Lane improvement needs to be done as part of phase 1. what they're saying is the amenities would be in by the 100th home, which might get you into phase 2, and I think we're okay with that, but the road improvement has to be a part of phase 1. If they want to develop that area as phase 4, they can, but with the amenities need to be a part, would have to be a part of that earlier than phase 4, because they're going to hit 100
So
units
the
before
entrance
then.
between lot 1 and lot 273, that can be part of phase 1, but
They
the
need to-
road has to
right.
be taken care of
Right,
to do that.
right, because otherwise the entrance is going to be right at a very odd angle to where Morton Lane comes into now. It's going to create a safety
Big
concern.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the amenities, I mean, they're committing to with, when they ask for a permit for the 100th house, they're gonna put those in, so they can't wait till phase 4 is built to put those amenities in, so. 'Cause
Do we have the connections to adjacent property owners? Okay, you
yeah,
think?
where they make sense, I mean, you would naturally think of a connection to the west, but the topography is so steep there, it makes it very difficult to do.
Other questions?
Maybe not seeing it, but do we have any language in here about the double wide parking?
Yeah, there's the two, it is in there, I can't remember which page it's on, but it does, for the townhomes and the single family, it's a 2-car parking cap, in addition to the garages.
So Kevin, one requirement I think was to have access to that cemetery.
Right,
There's a trail.
People
See it in the
just-
trees.
Okay,
See it starting out right here.
oh, okay,
Where is?
so it's a walking
okay,
trail.
okay, I do see that now, I apologize, yeah, there
Yeah,
is,
so it's a
from the end
walking
of the,
trail.
yeah, and that's all, they have to provide access so that someone, if they have someone that is buried there, they can visit, they don't have to necessarily, that's another reason why it might be good to have some parking spaces down there, but they don't have to provide a roadway to it, they just have to provide it. We've got, in several locations around town, we have situations where subdivisions have developed around some of those old cemeteries, and there's an access easement from a roadway, but it's just a walking access. So I apologize, that may have been addressed to the point we might take that one off.
Okay, so what do we have? Where are we?
Basically, it's, as far as conditions, that what we recommended is basically 7 through 16, but you could take off number 11, and then we added 7 parking spaces on either end near townhomes units 87 and 124.
Did we further clarify or add no building permits until fire flow requirements are
Yeah,
met?
that's true. We could do that. No building permits issued.
And are we still solid with the Morton Lane improvements being completed with phase 1? Or is it
That was
with
comment,
or
that was our
prior?
comment number 9. Must be constructed as a part of phase 1.
Okay.
So Kevin, there's no issue with the fact that they're proposing 273 residential lots, but CUD can only provide water for 270? Or does that, because the townhomes come into play?
Well, no, that 270 homes, all they can provide is for the domestic water only. That really doesn't factor into this, in my opinion, anyway, because they're gonna have to get the upgrade to meet the fire flow requirements anyway. So the
So that'll
domestic,
kinda come with it.
the domestic water is not gonna be an issue if they can meet the fire flow for 273, so.
Okay, what's the wishes of the commission?
I'll move for approval with staff comments
As amended.
as amended.
Now, we can handle the rezoning, the PUD modification, all of that in the same motion, where we're going from the
Yeah.
PUD back to the R1 and the annexation and the zoning on the,
Yeah, your recommendation can be handled. The council will have to handle the annexation and the PUD or the zoning amendment separately because an annexation per state law is not effective for 30 days and the zoning is immediate.
but we
So
can handle it all right here.
You can handle
all
all,
three.
right.
Okay. So I have a motion
You got a motion.
I'll second it.
and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of recommending the PUD to council for approval with staff comments, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on, under new business, preliminary plats, number 1, Ravens Point. Staff comments.
This is a preliminary plat on Sam Ridley Parkway. 6 lots on 22.26 acres in the C2 zone. This is property that was fairly recently rezoned from R6 to C2. We had 5 standard comments. We want to keep those. Primarily just for standard stuff we do every plat. We had some comments under our staff comments. But we would still need to keep some of those. Number 1 is just to provide the 911 approval for the road names that are proposed. They just need to submit construction plans prior to submittal of the final plat. Temporary turnarounds need to be shown on all the stub out streets more than 150 feet in length. The only one, they did that on Jeannie Lane, they did not on, there's a proposed private road called Eagles Way Drive. They have stated that they're not looking, they did add a note that there would not be any access for parcels, out parcel 3 and out parcel 6. To that private road, there's some grading issues where they will not be providing any access to it. It's only going to provide access to the remaining property. So they have basically requested that that not be required to be done since there's not going to be any access there, but our, the fire department did ask for that. Number 4, they asked them to show the size of the existing and proposed water lines. They did that on the existing water line. It is shown. It may be shown on the proposed line as it's underneath the sidewalk, and it's I don't see the label there. I'm sure it's probably 8 inch, but I might not see the label. There are hydrants shown, so they still need to show that just on the new line. And then number 5 is just that this plat approval is subject to the approval of the new access point by TDOT. Sam Ridley Parkway is a state highway, and any new access points there, it is a limited access highway, and so if you don't have access at a location, you have to get their permission to move one or add one or do anything. So They have submitted that paperwork to TDOT. TDOT hasn't given them an answer yet. So any plat approval, that obviously they can't start building roadway here until they get that approval. So they would need that before they can really come back to you for a final plat. It'd be our recommendation anyway. It could be a condition of that approval too, I guess. But before they can really start that construction, they got to get that approval from TDOT. So there is an existing access point on this property. They're wanting to move it, and they've requested it be moved to this point. So
Was this where the median already is, though, right?
there is a median there. There is an access on the south side. There's a daycare center and a mobile home park back there on the south side.
Is that where we think TDOT recommended the signal?
There's been they have not done their traffic study. That's in process. There's an adjoining development that has a traffic study. It's had 2 or 3 different traffic studies done. Where the traffic studies recommend signalization and new access points. So I mean, you've got basically both developments are requesting the same thing from TDOT, and so we're kind of waiting to see what TDOT approves or doesn't approve, because they both have, you know, submittals into TDOT for these access points. And so I don't know if TDOT hasn't, they have certainly haven't communicated with us yet that I'm aware of, the specific recommendation or anything.
So you haven't heard one way or another where they would potentially recommend?
You know, we're waiting on, like I said, this is they haven't been approved for this access point here at all. So certainly there's no signal recommendation yet. And the adjoining property to the west has requested they had 2 different locations that they were looking at access, and so I don't know exactly which one they're still trying to get approved through TDOT. Because again, they had traffic studies that supported 2 different things. So
Seems to me you would almost have to have a signal with all those lanes on this preliminary.
it would, yes, I would
It's
think
not
so.
going to fly without one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got 5 lanes going in and out, and you know, if the development occurs that is proposed to occur, you have quite a bit, you know, 91 acres are not even proposed as part of this plat, future development. Property goes all the way to Motlow Boulevard. You know, the concept plan shows Jeannie Lane going all the way to Motlow Boulevard and making that connection, which is a good thing.
Would that somehow connect into this? I mean, we don't see that picture here, so.
Yes, yeah, it would.
With the private road not being accessible.
No, the private road would not. Jeannie Lane would.
Okay.
Jeannie Lane would connect with these 2 developments, would connect all the way from Old Nashville Highway.
So it'll
to
cut on
Motlow.
through the temporary turnaround.
Yeah, that's a temporary turnaround. This is just phase 1.
Okay.
So
It would, well, it has to come out
So
on the other, closer to Milo, but on the other side of the Y.
yes, yeah, it'll be on that side of the Y. And there will be, their concept plan shows development between the Y and Jeannie Lane. You know, so, but yeah, it would come out at the Y or near the Y.
They're proposing at least, 84 feet of right-of-way at Sam Ridley for the Ravens Point Drive, I think. Is that correct? See that somewhere. Enough for 5 lanes.
It's enough for 5 lanes. They're showing.
And what's the rest of the right-of-way?
There's 60 feet of asphalt, and so, yeah, the right-of-way would neck down from here, but at Sam Ridley, yes, it's 80, maybe 90 feet. It's hard.
From where it
Yeah.
narrows down, are you satisfied with the right-of-way from that point back to Jenny Lane.
Yeah, yeah, because, I mean, Jeannie Lane is proposed at 60, I mean, I think it'd be very similar, yeah. 60 feet there where it necks down, so,
Okay,
yeah, we're fine with that.
all right. Anything else?
One question, I guess, for future processing for me, if we're currently at, a 4-lane road there, and we've got a widening project planned for Old Nashville Highway to the interstate. Don't know when this section will see that, correct? This is prior to that.
Right.
So, just food for future thinking, I think. The stacking lane that would turn left into this project, I don't want to recreate the same problem we've got over there on Sam Ridley right now with stacking. There's just not enough turn lane space, so I don't know if this is enough, but with all this growth, with what's behind it, we need to think through that.
Yeah, and we've talked about that with the, well, not with the developer, but primarily with his engineer.
On both sides, actually.
Yeah, there is a note here, these turn lanes are really kind of shown, they're kind of like placeholders.
Yeah, but I'm just putting it out there
Yeah.
for future thinking.
Right, the traffic study would make recommendations based on, growth and.
Traffic studies
estimates,
made
but-
recommendations where we are now. That's my point.
Yeah,
So I want to make sure we have adequate stacking,
right,
and this is still going to be a 4-lane. And that's
for the
gonna be a
foreseeable
big-
future, yes,
For a while,
yeah,
and that's going to be a big development.
sure. But yeah, the actual length of that could be longer than what's shown, certainly.
Just putting a bug in somebody's ear.
For the left turn as well as the right turn, for that matter, because there's a right turn decel lane coming westbound also.
All right. This goes to the property line of the adjacent development we've been talking about.
Correct.
I assume it ends up in the middle of the creek.
The creek is basically the line, yeah.
All right, how are we gonna handle the bridge?
Yeah. Their note says it would be coordinated with, that they would coordinate with the adjacent development, which would be what we would hope to see too, that there be some sort of. they can share
Yeah,
the
because I know
cost or whatever.
each developer can't build half a bridge.
Right.
So what is proposed on the bridge, so everybody knows what we're doing there on, we're waiting on the state to tell us what we're doing on Sam Ridley. We have to decide at least what we're gonna do on the bridge and how we're gonna handle it.
I mean, there's gonna be yeah. What we feel like, or what we hope will happen, is the two property owners would coordinate and kind of agree on a design. And
Well, here's the deal, we are.
whoever's gonna build, be out
approving
there building first.
Yeah, but we're approving a preliminary plat.
Yeah.
That shows the road probably to the middle of the creek.
Actually, it shows it extending into the adjoining property,
Okay,
working with that. Technically, they're showing building into their property, which they can't do obviously without their permission, but, we don't have construction plans yet. We don't have a design on what the bridge needs to be as far as how big of a culvert you need and that sort of thing yet. At some point, that's gotta be designed by somebody, and then, that's an that's something we haven't really hit before, because typically somebody's crossing the creek, but it's one person crossing the creek, and they're building it themselves. One developer is doing it, not meeting in the middle of the creek.
I
But
understand.
that's the scenario we're faced with because of how the property got divided up, however many years ago, so.
I would like to see us a little bit more actively involved in that, and for us to have some kind of working arrangement so that there's not any issues on that.
Yeah, I agree. At some point, the city and the two developers probably need to sit down and need to hash out exactly who's gonna do what and when, because we won't, obviously, it just needs to get built, but you can't build half a bridge, yeah. Obviously, one person's gonna have to build it and pay half, the other guy pays half of it, however they work that out. But, so.
Yes, sir. Please come forward, give your name and address.
My name is Steve Waldron. I live at 1402 Hawthorne Place in Murfreesboro. I am one of the owners of this property, and concerning the question that you brought up, our engineer is actually designing the crossing for that, and we're certainly willing to put in escrow our portion of that part of that bridge.
I mean, that could be the option, is that we get half, we figure out a cost and each developer gives the city half the money and the city builds it. I don't know, I guess, but.
And that's fine. I just
Yeah.
think we need to have a plan. Thank you, Steve.
You know, and I think probably before the final plat gets approved, in addition to the TDOT issues, we need to probably nail that down. I can get with Mr. Rose and Mr. Hercules and we'll figure that out some way or another.
I think by the time we get to that point with either project, then we're really gonna wanna know the answer on that one. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve with staff comments.
Do I have a second? We have a second. There was some hesitation there. Do we have more questions?
No, just thinking about the bridge issue.
Okay, we have a motion, have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on, new business, final plat, under C, Ridley Parkway Plaza. Staff comments.
Yeah, this is just a resub of Lot 4 of Ridley Parkway Plaza. This is primarily, it creates two lots that total about 5.78 acres, C2 zoning. This is essentially for the purpose of this is to do dedication of right-of-way of a piece of Nolan Drive. This is a part of a project that the town is about to undertake to relocate Nolan Drive to the south and east. We already have obtained a right-of-way easement from the airport authority, and then this is the other property that we need for that. They are donating this to the town. And like I said, it does create a lot kind of on the north and south side. We have one condition of approval, and it's a very standard one regarding the owner's signature being added to the plat. That's all I got.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the staff comment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on, under new business, item D, number 1, this is site plans, number 1, Lift 1 improvements.
This is a proposed site plan for Lift 1 expansion, which consists of 4.09 acres located at 121 Threet Industrial Road. This plan shows an expansion on the existing building of approximately 5,400 square feet on the southern end of the existing building. Property is currently zoned C2, and the proposed use is for general retail trade, which is allowed by right in the C2 zone. Property is bound to the north by Threet Industrial, to the east by a vacant tract of land, to the south and west by Estes. Surrounding zoning consists of A1, I2, I3. As proposed, the site will utilize the existing entrance off of Threet Industrial. As proposed, square footage of vehicular use area, 48,968 square feet, which would require square footage of landscaping, 4,896 square feet. We do not have an accurate proposed square footage yet. That was one of our staff comments to come later. Total parking required 36 spaces, they're proposing 37 with 2 handicap required, and they're proposing for 2 as well. Landscape plan submitted by the applicant shows a variety of trees and shrubs planted throughout the development and around the parking areas. Design review, architectural elevations show primary material of brick to be used, and the southern elevation also includes metal, which is not allowed by design review. Future land use plan identifies proposed site as suitable for heavy industrial development. We have 4 standard comments that we'll need to keep, as well as 4 staff comments. Staff comment 1 address the fire truck access within 250 feet of all points of the building. 2, show total landscape square footage, which I mentioned earlier. The proposed landscape plan also showed the trees to be planted in the detention area. We'd like those moved out to a different part of the area as well. In staff comment 4, architectural elevations may not include metal, which must meet your design review, and they should revise those to meet design review. With that, staff would recommend approval with comments.
What's the existing structure as far as the,
Just brick. Back, the back is where they're showing the metal, the back of the building.
is it metal of the existing building now?
No.
In other words, we want the addition to look like what they already have there.
Right.
Is there an issue with the fire truck access? I'm not sure I've ever seen this one, or at least expressed this way.
I don't know, I think there was,
There was a comment from the fire department about just showing access for the fire hydrant to access all the points of the building within that 250 feet, and that was basically their comment. So I believe there was
Have
some.
we had that one before? I don't remember seeing it, that's why.
we may not have, I don't know if it's been an issue
Maybe the
before.
only time it came up.
Yeah, it may not have been an issue before. Typically, I think it has to do with where the actual hydrant is and where this new building is kind of going on the south side, further away from the parking area and stuff like that. I think that's their main concern.
So do they have access? Does it meet it or not?
That's why we've asked them to show how that can be handled. I don't think it doesn't meet it. That's why it's a comment.
If it doesn't meet it, then what would be required?
They would have to potentially have to add an access further south, maybe from the parking lot in the front, or something like that, to where the fire department could go further south into the parking lot, something like that.
Everything's available where they can do it.
Right.
Okay.
Is the parking lot paved?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
All right. Any other questions?
There's someone would like to speak.
Oh, yes, sir. Please come forward, give your name and address, please, sir.
I'm James Nicholas with SH Group. I'm the civil engineering firm, engineering rep for the project.
Yes, sir.
I think on the plans that we had sent, I tried to show an exhibit showing that we had 250 feet from the southwest corner of the building. That actually encompasses that parking lot that comes down in front of the building. So we do have access for 250 feet.
All right. Just work that out with staff. We're good. Thank you.
And then I couldn't hear the comment about the metal building. The metal is only shown on the rear of the building, which
Not
is hidden
allowed.
from at all. With the understand that it's design review,
Yes,
so it's not allowed at all.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Wasn't that your comment?
That was our recommendation.
Yes.
It is C2.
Okay.
Other questions?
Move to approve staff comments.
Have a motion. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On this next item, under site plans number 2, the Rock Springs Market, I have a conflict on this one, and we'll turn it over to our vice chair to handle.
Then I'm going to turn it right over to Mitch here.
Thanks. This is a proposed site plan for Rock Springs Market, which is located on the corner of Rock Springs Road and Stonecrest Parkway. It consists of approximately 1.32 acres. Plans show a proposed market space of 3,500 square feet with an additional future building expansion of 2,400 square feet behind the proposed building. Property is currently zoned C2, and the proposed use is for convenience commercial, which is allowed by right in the C2 zoning district. Property is bound to the north and east by vacant land, to the south by Rock Springs Road, and to the west by Stonecrest Parkway. Surrounding zoning consists of R1, R3, C2, and PUD. As proposed, the site may be accessed from both Stonecrest Parkway and Rock Springs Road. Square footage of vehicular use area proposing for 38,124 square feet, which would require square footage of landscaping to be 3,812 square feet. Landscape plans show proposed square footage of 8,355 square feet. Total parking required of 47 spaces. They are proposing for 47 spaces as well. 2 handicap spaces are required, and they are showing those required spaces as well. Landscape plan submitted by the applicant shows a variety of street trees and shrubs around the perimeter of the lot, lining both Stonecrest Parkway and Rock Springs Road. Additional shrubs are shown to be planted around the perimeter of the building as well. Architectural elevations show primary materials to be used of brick with an EFIS cap on the top of the building as a secondary material. Future land use plan identifies proposed site as suitable for office, retail, multifamily, residential development. Couple standard comments that will remain. Staff comments: 1, the amount of the parking shown would eliminate a restaurant use in the 2,400 square foot as future building expansion. This is more of a standard comment. They understand this comment we have for them. Staff comment 2 and 4 have both been addressed, and staff comment 3 regarding the traffic study, they understand that requirement as well, and will submit it prior to future plans. So, with that, staff would recommend approval.
Any questions for staff?
On the future expansion, that expansion building, Kevin, it said not a restaurant because the parking spaces would not allow it. But they could put a drive-through in, drive-through only, as a restaurant.
We don't have we don't have separate parking requirements for like a drive-through only or carry-out only type restaurant. That's something we could look at. We basically have a 1 for 100 square feet requirement for a restaurant, kind of regardless if it's a drive-through only or carry-out only, or if it's a.
So that would limit it to, it couldn't be a restaurant at all then.
Right, because basically they have enough parking, they have like 47 spaces, just 35 are needed for the market. So the 12 would count towards the other 2,400 square feet, which is fine for retail, for some offices or anything like that would be enough, but.
Nothing with food.
Nothing with actual food sales that are, restaurant type. That's something we may want to think about. Do we need to add something to our ordinance for a separate requirement for carry-out only? That's something we could think about, I guess. As of right now, though, it doesn't. We don't have that. So.
Okay. Kevin, do you have any concerns with the entrances in relation to the intersection with Stonecrest and Rock Springs? Then we see an entrance on Stonecrest as far as, and I'm looking at it from a perspective of, you think typically right in, right out's easy. That left across, is that something that would be that you have concerns with now, or is that something that we would take up at traffic study time?
I think we would take that up as a part of the traffic study. We'd want them to evaluate that, certainly.
Okay.
But I mean, they are placed basically as far away from the intersection as they can put them. Anytime you add access points, you're adding conflicts, you're adding potential issues, but we don't have, and also they are proposing these to be access points for multiple lots in the future development as well, because there will be other developments. So, limiting the access points to Stonecrest and Rock Springs that might be the only one you have potentially, within this development, especially on the Stonecrest side.
With that, the development across the street that's currently happening, they're gonna have shops on that main road frontage. Where do they line up in accordance with what's already here?
The development across, we don't have a site plan yet on those lots. There are 2 out parcels.
Okay.
Can't remember exactly where, if they were gonna have access to Stonecrest or not. But we don't have site plans exactly on those lots yet. Their main access, what's been approved over there, they
Rock
have
Springs only.
the new road that comes in from Rock Springs is where their access will be, yeah.
I think to Tim's question, I guess the traffic study will tell us if there's any need here for any kind of turn lanes.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the center turn lanes already, but do you need a right turn deceleration
Yeah.
lane or something like that? Certainly, I think.
Because of the traffic flow over there and the growth over there.
Any other questions?
I move to approve the staff comments.
I have a motion to approve the staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We can bring our chairman back in. Yeah.
You don't want to come back.
Still with us.
Moving on to item number 7, zoning ordinance amendment. Staff comments, what we got?
Yeah, this is a zoning ordinance amendment that was requested a couple months ago by members of the commission. Basically, this was requested because of several PRDs we'd had come through that we kind of placed the same conditions on all of them. And so we basically were asked to just go ahead and put it in the ordinance so it's clear to everybody on the front end when they're putting their plans together that this is something they're going to have to do. And essentially what it does, it would require in any PRD where there's a single family PRD where the side setbacks are less than 10 feet, because 10 feet is what's required in R3 and typical developments R4, R1, 2. Anytime they have a setback less than 10 feet, the construction materials required for the sides of any structure would have to be brick, stone, concrete siding, or other non-flammable masonry material, so that way if something new comes out, it'll be covered. And then the HVAC units for parcels with that setback shall be located in the rear of the building or on the roof if it's applicable. Probably not going to happen, but just I did want to plug that in there too. So essentially that just puts it at what we have been requiring as a condition of those approvals anyway. Just goes ahead and it communicates it through the ordinance that that's what's going to be required. So they'll just go ahead and plug that into their development plans. And that's what it is.
This doesn't address parking requiring 2.
No, it didn't. If we want to add that, we can certainly do that. That's my recollection was we were worried about the materials and the HVAC units. That's something, but I mean we could.
Well, why don't we just address this then? But I do think since we are requiring that on almost every.
Yeah, this would be specific to PUDs. I think that's really something not even outside of the PUD. I think we're looking at, for multifamily development that's in R6, it's townhomes or something like that. We're probably going to be looking at 1 to 2 per unit. So that's probably something we could address in the park section of the ordinance.
Okay.
Certainly, we could do that.
Yeah, let's don't try to add it tonight.
We've been pretty consistent with that anyway. It probably needs to be in there.
All right, let's address this. Then you ready? Yeah, I appreciate you bringing this. That way, if everybody's on notice, they know what we're going to expect.
Right.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You know, the other thing on the parking that we're looking at, we have been looking and encouraging additional parking other than just for each unit. But I don't know that we have any kind of standard on that, like we asked for 6 more at the end of each street tonight.
Yeah, we really don't, and I've looked at that some, it's kind of across the board. Some communities they basically ask for, you get an extra parking space because they do like, instead of having 2 per unit, they make it like 2.1 or something like that, so you get an extra one for every 10 units, or some of them do, based on how many bedrooms, the more bedrooms there are, they require more units.
We know we want 2 for each unit.
Yeah.
That off the sidewalk and the easement. I think we're gonna want something.
Yeah.
So as we're looking at that, would you see if we can't come up with some kind of recommendation on that, because I think we like the projects that have that, and to keep the parking off the street like you brought up earlier tonight. And the only way we do that is they gotta park somewhere.
Right.
And I think it makes more sense to look at the units versus the bedrooms in the units, because, I mean, you can really dissect it down to where you think you're getting it right, and really it comes down to a unit.
Yeah. And like I said, there's some that, again, it's just across the board, different things. If you look at different communities and how they look at it.
We're getting more and more requests, and I think it's gonna continue, just like tonight, where all the PRD that we modified had all single-family units, and then they came back with some townhomes in the structure. We're gonna get more of that.
We saw it with the wind farm too.
Yes.
I mean, you're gonna continue because of the land prices and the difficulty of, a lot of the land's getting pretty difficult to develop.
Well, believe it or not, the market's kind of shifting.
And the markets want that too.
And I think the demand is more for that than it ever used to be. So I think we're gonna, and it's not just here, it's in every community that I see. So I think, okay, there's gonna be more people coming there. What are we gonna do with the extra cars? I think we need to think about that as far as what else we have to provide for.
We're doing it anyway.
Yes. So, okay, thank you. Where are we? Bond report.
Yeah, we got 3 tonight. One, Patton Retreat Phase 1. This is one we've only had for 1 year. I was able to touch base with Mr. Etheridge today on this one. Wasn't able to before we delivered packets. Did talk with him. He did request an extension. They are about 68% built out, but he did request that, and we've only had a year. We were okay with extending that one for a year. Next one is Buckingham Place, Section 2, Phase 2. This is one, but again, we've only had it 1 year as well. They are about 33% built out, only 12 lots in there, but 4 out of 12 built. We did recommend a 1-year extension on that one. And then Woodcrest, Section 4. We have had that one a couple of years. They are a little bit further along in getting that built out, so we would recommend only a 6-month extension on that one, since we've already had it 2 years. And that's all I got.
Okay, please register me as not voting or participating on this one. And do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there a second?
Yes,
Mike.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second to approve the bond report. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Well, since everybody left, we'll just adjourn.